So, shall we begin? So, I would like to thank everyone for coming today for the two-part hormone masterclass. So, today's first session will be mastering estrogen dominance, and I would like to just hope that you would learn everything here. And I would like to thank Valerie for doing this session so that we can all learn, and hopefully whatever information we will take from this, we'll be able to spread around to our friends and family. So over to Valerie.
Just realised I was on mute. Thank you so much, JD. Right, I'm just going to quickly share my screen with you guys. Good evening, all. What I'll probably do is turn off my camera in a minute so you can concentrate on the slides. But I'm really, really excited to be here. One thing I think us women are aware of that is that we know that estrogen dominance or gynecological issues are a major issue globally, just not in the UK. So what I wanted to bring to you tonight is the root causes of estrogen dominance and why we're having these issues. So I hope you can all hear me. I hope you can see the screen. Can you all hear me okay, and see my slides? Okay. Yes, I'm assuming that's a yes. So I'm just going to be sharing with you how to, tomorrow. So today is mastering estrogen dominance. And then tomorrow evening, we are talking about repairing your period. Okie dokie. So we'll start now. So, right. So I don't know if you're aware of the UK government women's health strategy that was done last year. Is anyone aware of that? You can, I can't see the, so JD, perhaps you can check with me to see if if anybody's responding to that, because essentially this was done last year. It was carried out for 14 weeks. Let me, that's better because I can see my slides, because hold on, I just need to be able to move this so I can see my slides. So it says here, for generations, women have lived with a healthcare system that is mostly designed by men for men. So who would agree with that? I'm sure most of us who have had experience with the NHS have realised that actually we're not getting a good deal when it comes to our healthcare. So if you know about it, or if you took part indeed, like I said, the study is concluded now, but the results from the survey showed that the top 5 health priorities for women were gynecological issues, surprise, surprise. And those include fertility, pregnancy loss, postnatal support, the menopause, menstrual health, and mental health. And guess what? Not being listened to was the one thing that stood out at every stage of the healthcare pathway. Surprise, surprise. More specifically, though, women who took part in the survey said that their symptoms were not taken seriously, or they were dismissed. So how familiar does that sound to you? On their first contact, they were like, oh, well, it's just women's problems. They had to persistently advocate for themselves to secure a diagnosis, often requiring multiple visits before they got any joy. And a good proportion of it was over a good number of months or years as well. And when they finally secured the diagnosis, there were limited opportunities to discuss or ask questions about the treatment options, and their preferences were often ignored. I've had that experience, and I don't know about you, but perhaps you resonate with that. So I'm Valerie. Hello, good evening. I'm founder of Woman Wise Health. That's WOMB -man, Woman Wise Health. And I'm a holistic reproductive health practitioner. And I specialize in fibroids and heavy bleeding, working with women over 40, professional women over 40, to deal with this in a natural way. The survey I just mentioned to you highlights why I do what I do. Most of the women I work with and speak to on a daily basis are either asking friends or family for solutions to their gynae issues, or where else do they go? I call it Dr. Google, because that's where they're going. So the study also showed that Black women in particular were much less likely to rely on their GP or healthcare professional, or than any other ethnic group. Surprise, surprise. But I work with women across the board, no matter what their ethnicity. But as an Afro-Caribbean woman myself, I completely get why that is. So I was diagnosed with multiple fibroids in 2002. I suffered with excessive menstrual cycles, which left me anemic to literally all my life, to the point where it was just normal to hear you're anemic. I just lived with it for years. I had 2 operations that didn't work. I've had test after test. I've been prodded and poked over years, but in the end, I had to take matters into my own hands. I had no other option. I was sick and tired of being told that there was nothing wrong just because the test results showed that everything was normal. And I can assure you, I did not feel normal, and there was nothing about the normal crime scenes that I was experiencing every month that would put some gory horror movie to shame. So what I did is that I immersed myself in research. I used myself as my own clinical trial. I tested various supplements, lots of supplements. I tried different foods. I did mind work. I detoxed like crazy. Why did I do that? Because I needed to see what worked and what didn't. So now I walk my talk. So I'm not coming to you with this information because I've read it in a couple of magazines and a couple of books. I actually, although of course I've read a lot, but most of the work I've done on this and what I'm presenting to you here tonight is the work I've done on myself, and I continue to do every single day. So a lot of what I did is summarized in these 2 masterclasses. So this one on mastering estrogen dominance, and I'm giving you some background as well as giving you tips and strategies so you can start your own healing journey. So what to expect? So I'm going to help you clear up the confusion so you gain a better understanding about hormone health and indeed your own hormone health. I go on about the root causes all the time, every time, because hormone imbalances, because I do see a lot of time being wasted on treating symptoms, i.e. they take out the fibroids, but they're not looking at what actually caused it. But I would rather you had great results. I'm going to give you real solutions to fixing hormonal imbalances so you don't suffer with silly cycles every month, bloating, cramping, pain, and whatever else you've got going on. So my intention for you tonight is to share with you everything you need to know. So the first place we're going to visit is the understanding of hormones. So let's take a brief look at that now. So of course, without going into a science or biology lesson, you're probably already aware of the 3 types of estrogen. Estrogen, again, as you know, is, or you may know, is a complex of 3 hormones that work together to regulate the female reproductive system. So the 3 forms are what you see here: the estrone, which is E1, estradiol, which is E2, and estriol, which is E3. The circulating levels of these estrogens fluctuate with your menstrual cycle, your age, your reproductive activity, for instance, breastfeeding, puberty, pregnancy, and so forth. So estrone is a weaker steroid hormone, and it's the only hormone your body makes after the menopause, and it's prevalent throughout the body. Estradiol is the dominant form of estrogen in childbearing women, and that is produced from developing follicles responsible for our female characteristics and sexual functionings and our bone health. Okay, and estriol is the main estrogen produced during pregnancy from the placenta. So if we look, so how does the body make estrogen? Well, without getting too scientific and too chemistry and biology, estrogen is made in these organs. So we're looking at the ovaries, the adrenal glands, the fat tissues, gut bacteria, and also from the enzymes. The ovaries, what you must be aware of, are a woman's gonads. Now, you probably haven't heard them referred to as that before, or you may have done, you may have come across it. But the ovaries are a woman's gonads. So when you take these away with a full hysterectomy, that's the equivalent of chopping off a man's, bits. So we hear a lot of that about excess estrogen. And so we're under the impression that estrogen is bad. And so, okay, it's bad. So the best thing we can do, get rid of it. The truth is we need it. Estrogen is the hormone that gives women their femininity, which is something I've mentioned already. So as well as giving women their curves, breasts, etc., estrogen has a whole host of other health benefits that run throughout the body, such as temperature regulation, cholesterol production, and again, it prevents the loss of its bone and memory loss. It's preventative. But did you know did you know that there's estrogen receptors all over the body? If you didn't, the real issue is, as you know, is that we're getting too much of it. So in regards to estrogen, again, I can only cover the basics here, but our body is directed by an amazing, delicately balanced orchestra of hormones that takes place in the body every single day. High estrogen was a phrase that was coined by Dr. John R. Lee, who's a doctor or a Harvard graduate who's famous for his research on progesterone. So estrogen dominance is, of course, as we know it, is the most common hormonal imbalance affecting women of every age, from young to older. But when estrogen levels are high in relation to progesterone levels, that's what we know as relative estrogen dominance. So this can occur even when estrogen levels are low, such as during the menopause. So what causes high estrogen then? It can be caused by a range of factors, actually. So it can be impaired estrogen metabolism. So that means your body can't make proper use of it. Poor estrogen detoxification, meaning your body is not excreting excess estrogen. A poor diet, that goes without saying. So, for example, if you're over consuming junk food, or it's medically induced through the use of the pill, as in the birth control, tranexamic acid, or IUDs, or IUD, whichever way around it is, and other contraceptive and other medication. So you also have other factors, such as excess body fat, because estrogen is made in fat cells. You've got your endocrine disrupting hormones. Stress is a big one. I mean, that's a subject all by itself, to be honest. And it's a major contributing factor that's rarely taken into account. This is why you have anything to do with the womb is the HYS, which really means, well, womb hysteria. So hysterical, because in the past they used to say women are becoming hysterical. So that's why it's everything's a hysteroscopy, a hysterectomy. But you get hormonal fluctuations all the time regarding the life stage you're at, whether it's puberty, pregnancy, postpartum, things like that, menopause, etc. So, as well as the menopause, premenopause, and things like that. Okay. The fact is, with estrogen, it can start early in a woman's menstrual cycle, even from birth. What I see is lots of women feeding their young children. I see this all the time with what I call pacifying food and drinks. So what I mean by that is food and drinks filled with sugar, normally, because it's pacifying. It keeps them quiet for a certain amount of time while mummy tries to get on with whatever it is she's trying to get on with. But long term, this may lead to hormonal imbalances, even in males. Young women from the teens to their early 30s tend to suffer with difficult periods. You may have experienced that, I know I did, and often end up on the pill to regulate cycles. This is exactly what happened to me. Women later in life can be affected during the perimenopause and the menopause, and as we age, the ovaries produce less progesterone, which can lead to relative estrogen dominance. With my story, I was put on the pill because I had excessive bleeding from the day I started. We'll go into more about repair your period tomorrow, so we'll speak more about that. But yeah, it was a blooming awful time for me. So relative estrogen dominance is quite common during the perimenopause, that is, due to low progesterone, and there are underlying reasons for this. So many of you will probably recognize these symptoms because you suffer with them, or you know somebody who suffers with them month after month with no respite. So have a look at the list and see how many you can count. Obviously, you don't have to share it. Just keep it in mind as we continue on. Okay, so we know that there's lots of things that happen every single month when we have estrogen dominance. So why these signs may be common, I can assure you that they're not normal. And many of us live with these issues for years and years and years and years, because I know I did, and you probably did as well, or you know somebody who has. And of course, all of these are due to hormonal imbalances. But when they're left untreated, can lead to future health problems, such as what you see listed here, especially fibroids, any thyroid issues, endo, PCOS, and cancer, especially breast cancer. Breast cancer is just prevalent. So, but women have been told that painful periods, low mood, hot flushes, weight gain, and other signs of hormonal imbalances are just part of being female, and you just live with it. So because of this, women have a false belief that these symptoms are normal. What is actually happening is your body is signaling to you that something's not right. And this is where testing comes into its own. Right, so when it comes to medical tests, it tends to rely on blood tests to measure circulating levels of hormones in the body. But a much better indicator is urine or saliva. And I'm going to tell you why that is. Saliva tests offer a good picture of free hormones that are actively available to the body, as opposed to the total amount of hormones in your bloodstream. And urine is even better because urine testing allows practitioners such as myself to assess how the body is using hormones, not just how much is floating around. So this is what we really need to know. Not just how much is floating around in the body, because this is when you have a doctor's test or a blood test that shows, your hormone levels are normal. This is what they're missing, all right? So you need to know how your body's utilizing those hormones, and because that way that will give you a better idea and a better understanding of what's going on. So what you decide on in regards to treatment, of course, is up to you. But you have two choices. You can do holistic, medical. Those are essentially your two choices. Of course, I really don't need to go too much into detail about conventional treatment, because I'm sure most of us already know about the medications available and the options for that, surgery, etc. I would say, because I'm not against, let me just put that out there, I'm not against the medical route, especially if you're suffering, but it's a good starting point if you just need something to get you through, okay? But of course, when you're taking medications, all you're really doing is you're squashing the symptoms. What medication will allow you to do is function. It's going to allow you to function, but it's not going to address the root cause. Likewise, with birth control, it doesn't normalize hormonal imbalance. Again, it only suppresses it. And it does this by overriding your body's own hormone production. So what happens is that many women, when they come off birth control or the pill, if you want to call it that, their imbalances are still there and maybe more severe than before. And I can testify to that. So in terms of the pill, of the treatments offered for estrogen dominance, the most prescribed is the hormonal birth control, as we know. So many women use, the pill for family planning. That's what it was intended for. So it wouldn't surprise me if more of the birth control pills are prescribed or written for hormone imbalances than what they were made for, which is the prevention of pregnancy. It really would not surprise me. Women are given prescriptions for birth control with the promise that their periods will normalize. But is that actually true? When researching more into this, I found that the pill suppresses your own hormones and shuts down your natural cycle. Bleeding while using the pill is called withdrawal bleeding. During the placebo week, or the week that you have the break of your program, the program you're on, there's no release of hormones. The hormone withdrawal is what causes the bleeding. So you can see that you'll never have a true period while you're on the pill. So in fact, nothing's been normalized, nothing at all. The root cause is something I go on about all the time. It's the thing that so many women are missing when dealing with gynecological disorders naturally, because many women want to deal with it naturally because they don't want surgery, and they certainly don't want a hysterectomy. One thing you can do is you go onto YouTube and you'll find tons and tons of YouTube videos. There's loads of books on Amazon and all sorts promising you your fibroids will shrink in 3 months or 10 weeks or whatever it is, yeah? But when this doesn't happen, the product, the way of eating, the diet, or whatever gets the blame. What women tend to miss is why what they're doing isn't working. So these approaches, especially the medical route, are temporary fixes, and at best may even cause further balance. And again, I'm not dismissing the medical route because it can have its uses. But so if you're ready to ditch your symptoms and get back to living the life you deserve, you must address the root cause of your hormonal imbalance. So let's take a look at the 5 root causes that need to be addressed before you think about doing anything else. So the first one is to fix your gut. So we need good gut health in order to be healthy and to prevent disease. You can find loads of studies now actually on the functions of gut bacteria, and we now know how important they are for good health. This is why you'll find all those probiotic drinks on the, in the chiller cabinets in the supermarkets like Yakult and things like that, although most of them are full of sugar anyway, so they're still rubbish. The gut microbiome impacts us in so many ways, and there are plenty of studies to show this. So as well as digesting our food, our gut bacteria has an impact on our immunity as well as affecting our mental health and, of course, our hormonal health. Our gut flora, if you want to call it that as well, the microbiome, good bacteria, the connection is the hormone gut microbiome connection is the most overlooked aspect of hormonal health. In my experience, because I have experienced this, without a healthy gut, you won't get very far without balancing your hormones. So let me give you quick facts, 6 facts about the hormone-gut connection. So our gut flora, I'll just call it that because it's easier, produces and regulates all 3 estrogens that our body uses. So this helps to keep our hormones balanced. The gut flora helps to detoxify bad estrogens because these are linked to hormone cancers. It produces progesterone, which prevents estrogen dominance. We possess all the strains of microbes we need for hormone production and regulation. But what we need to do is allow these strains to flourish. So if you've ever been on antibiotics, just one round of broad spectrum antibiotics can literally knock out the gut flora by 90%. Okay, so when you've got the bad microbes running the show, hormone production is disrupted and becomes unbalanced. But one thing you must be aware of is that we have a balance of good and bad bacteria in the gut anyway. It's just when the bad bacteria is allowed to proliferate, that's when things can go a bit wonky. So the second thing you need to do is reduce your exposure to xenoestrogen and endocrine disrupting chemicals. So it's easier said than done. It's almost near impossible, actually. So the best thing we can do is reduce what we ingest and absorb. So this means eating as organic as much as possible, because this will help reduce exposure to pesticides and insecticides. Where possible, avoid conventionally reared meat. If you can afford it, buy only pasture-raised organic meats and wild caught fish. That may mean to buy the best, you eat less, because before I took out red meat, that's exactly what I used to do. As we know, conventional, farm animals brought up or reared in the conventional way, they're loaded with estrogens, and that includes dairy. So if you are a cheese lover like I used to be, then you need to decide if your love of cheese is worth it each month. Another aspect is looking out for toxicities in your beauty care. Most of us are aware of this anyway, but still many of us use, all the branded stuff you can buy from Boots and Superdrug. but what you put on your skin gets absorbed. It's as simple as that. That's why you have those what do you call them, those nicotine patches, because it gets absorbed when people are trying to give up smoking and stuff. Where possible, use natural household cleaners. Spray cleaners, you know, the ones you spray, they're probably the worst, as they release microscopic amounts of the chemicals, whatever the chemicals are in the products, and then you breathe those in. So that's probably the worst thing. When it comes to our cookware, you can use things like glass, ceramic and stainless steel. Try not to use non-stick pans. I know most of us have got non-stick pans, so it's a process. It's not something you have to do like tomorrow or next week. Salad Master cookware are really good, but they're a major investment. So if you could afford any Salad Master stuff, then definitely go for that. Really good cookware. And of course, when it comes to drinking, especially drinking water, it's avoiding, where possible, drinking water out of plastic bottles, or heating food in plastic for that matter, because we all have microscopic pieces of plastic floating around in our bodies that can cause all sorts of health problems. That was actually documented on a program. I can't remember what it was now. I think it was ITV or something, Tonight program, I think, where they showed that people were actually walking around with microscopic pieces of plastic in their bodies. My favorite, the liver. Your liver is a workhorse. It carries out multiple hundreds actually, of chemical reactions on a daily basis. Every day, all day, especially at night while you're asleep. Keeping your liver clean is paramount to balancing hormones. So just be aware that alcohol is a toxin. So just be mindful of when you're drinking, because one alcoholic beverage a day can raise your levels of blood estrogen. What the liver does is that it helps to regulate and remove excess estrogen from the body, so you're keeping your liver functioning well, and that's essential for hormonal balance. So as you can see here, I've just given you a little list of the nutrients that are needed to detoxify estrogen. So if that's not happening, if your estrogen's all over the place and it's not detoxifying, this needs to be assessed. Okay. In my 21-day spring reset, which starts next month, we go more into detail about the liver and its functions, but I'll share more about that with you tomorrow. Number 4, and that's to manage your weight. So this is not about dieting. The dieting is it's another subject that you could go on about all day, all night, all week. But the research I've done shows that excess mid belly fat is the leading cause of estrogen dominance in both men and women. So what excess body fat leads to is an overproduction of estrogen, and excess estrogen will make more fat cells. So it's one of those vicious cycles that can be really hard to break. This is where you'll find terminologies like weight loss resistance, because you'll have women particularly who are trying to lose weight but struggling to do it because your body can't. It just can't. Okay, so instead of looking to lose weight, because you can always find it again, the preferable terminology to probably start getting in your head is to get healthy. When your health improves, weight loss is a natural, pleasant side effect, and there will be no effort on your part. So what we need to do is we need to eat real food, shun the sugar in all forms except natural sugars, of course, and a bit of honey here and there never goes amiss. You balance your hormones by fixing your gut and detoxing your liver. Deal with the stress, that's key. If anything, that's number one. Do something that makes you happy, because a lot of us have probably been very miserable over the last couple of years. And move your body and forget about dieting. One thing you don't need is to follow restrictive, fatty diets. And you don't need to manipulate your metabolism by fasting or with low carb diets that may mess up your hormones. Okay, you just need to follow a program that's right for you. Another one, like I said, going back to what I just said, actually, I cannot overestimate how much stress impacts each and every one of us. And it negatively impacts on hormonal imbalance. Again, this is a subject I go into more detail in the 21-day spring reset. So in order to start dealing with stress, these are just some of the things you can do. Yoga. I love yoga. I'm a big yoga fan. I know it's not everybody's into it, but you also have Pilates. Some people prefer Pilates. Exercise in whatever form that is. It could be anything from boxing to running to pushing weights in the gym, whatever floats your boat when it comes to exercise. But exercise is good because it releases the feel-good hormones, endorphins. You can meditate if you're up for that, if that's your bag. You can journal. That's a good thing to do again. Say affirmations. You watch a funny movie. It's always good to have a laugh. You could dance as well. Go dancing, or just jig around in your kitchen, or just go for a walk in nature. You can always go to what's that forest in Essex? Epsom Forest. I can't remember the name, but I'm sure some of you already know what I'm talking about. So now we're back. Now we're to my favorite bit, which is all about the food. So let's dive in. So cruciferous vegetables, this is probably not new to you. So you're looking at cruciferous vegetables such as kale, broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. All of those offer an amazing compound known as diindylmethane. Okay, so we know that is DIM for short. So DIM is going to be a great help for women who have hormone-related issues such as acne, menopause, PMS. And that's what DIM does. It will help regulate the estrogen metabolism. So preferably you want to do it by eating more cruciferous vegetables, because it's easy and it's effective, and it's a great way to promote healthy estrogen balance. But what do you do if you don't like cruciferous vegetables? Because I know there's loads of people who don't like Brussels sprouts. You can take a DIM supplement, but ideally what you want to do first is get tested by a qualified practitioner rather than self-prescribe, because too much DIM can raise your estrogen levels. So you need to know what you're doing with it, essentially. In fact, as a little gift to you, I have a handout on DIM, which you'll receive as a thank you for being here. So one last note, if you're worried about the impact of these kind of vegetables on your thyroid health, there are ways to eat these foods without any negative impact. So as we discussed earlier, a healthy gut flora is essential for hormonal balance. So eating things like fermented foods and drinks, you know, this will be a way to do that. This will be a way to get healthy gut flora. So you things got like coconut yogurt, where possible, if you can, avoid the dairy-based ones. If you're going to go for dairy-based ones, I would suggest make sure it's organic. You've got coconut kefir, or you've also got water kefir, actually. A friend of mine used to make some really good, decent water kefir. It's lovely. You got fermented vegetables like kimchi, sauerkraut. They're very easy to make. There's recipes all over the internet for those, and they last a long time. And then you've got drinks like kombucha as well. And again, that's really easy to make. And all of these foods will help support your gut flora. So what you want to do is take some hormone-loving foods as well. So adding superfoods to your diet can help power up your body and restore balance. And I've listed just 3 here, of course, but there's loads more. What I would say, it's really tough to get the nutrients you need when you're living a busy, stressful lifestyle. So my favorite hormone foods are chlorella. So this one's great because it binds to toxins. It's very alkalizing and it helps with cellular growth and repair. The green superfood powders. So this is a good one if you find it hard to eat enough cruciferous vegetables. So you can purchase a green food powder to boost your intake of greens, because I know some people get a bit funny about eating green stuff. So, and usually these powders contain a range of greens, sprouted greens like wheatgrass, barley grass, oat grass, things like that, and as well as the chlorella, spirulina, wheat, etc. So there's loads on the market. So it's just a matter of probably trying out a few small bottles, or if they come in sachets, even better, because then you can put them in your smoothies or your juices and see how they taste. So when it comes to maca root powder, that's also really good for hormonal health, immunity, and it's very energizing as well. But some of you may be thinking, oh God, maca, what? But some of you, you're probably thinking, well, that's not a great idea because I've got fibroids, endo, PCOS, and I've been told that maca isn't good for when I've got that. Again, this is where testing comes in. Maca is an amazing food and it's often recommended for women with hormonal imbalances. So rather than spending your time guessing, but not actually knowing whether you need to take a particular herb or supplement, then it might be worth your while getting tested so you have a better, clearer idea of your nutrient deficiencies. So I would say the best quality, I would say it's the fact, actually, the best sources of vitamins and minerals is quality whole foods. It's as simple as that. So when it comes to fats, I think we're all over the myth now that if you eat something fatty like an avocado, it's going to make you fat. That's just not the case. I think we're kind of over that now. But again, but we do need healthy fats for good health. We need fats to manufacture hormones, because all our hormones come from cholesterol. So, you know, we need that correlation there. But the secret is to eat healthy fats. We know that now. But most people are still consuming an imbalanced ratio of good to bad fats, and that is actually documented. So we're looking at things like donuts, French fries, burgers, crisps, chips, you know, things that have been fried in refined cooking oils, milk, cheese, animals injected with hormones and antibiotics, and also that all of it makes our hormones go nuts. So to support hormone balance, we need more omega-3 fats. Women in general, we naturally have more fat on our bodies than men. So we need it for our own health, as well as a healthy pregnancy, if that's what you're planning. So in terms of high fiber foods then, fibre is essential for hormonal balance. What's that? If anybody's been watching that You Are What You Eat, I don't know if it's still on or whether it's finished now. That was on recently, and they had a table spread of what these people were eating every week, and there was no fibre. Essentially, there's no fibre whatsoever in their foods, and it was all brown. It was disgusting. Fibre is essential for hormone balance. Excess estrogen is eliminated through bowel movements. So if our stools remain in the bowel for longer than normal, estrogen can be reabsorbed by the body, because what happens is there's an enzyme called beta glucuronidase that comes in, breaks down what the liver has bound up in a nice little package for the bowels to take out. This enzyme has come along, uncoupled it all, and send the hormones back into circulation. So what fibre is going to do is going to help you help with the bowel movements, and it's also going to prevent constipation. But then, of course, that's when you need to hydrate as well. And there are actually studies that show that women who eat a high fibre diet have lower levels of circulating estrogen. Right, so tomorrow we are talking about repair your period. So many women, as you know, including myself, I used to struggle with this, but I see women struggling with this all the time. Every single month, sometimes for prolonged periods, excuse the pun. So what I'm going to be doing tomorrow is I'll be sharing strategies that you can use and continue to use, and that can and will eventually reverse this problem. So that's part one, and I hope you're looking forward to part two as much as I am. So that's been done. So if you've got any questions.
So we do have a question in the comments, and this question is, how do you use hemp seeds still in the shell?
Hold on a second. Let me just try and get everybody back. I don't know how to stop sharing. Oh, here I am. Sorry, JD, what was that question again?
The question was, how do you use hemp seeds still in the shell?
Oh, the hemp seeds. Yes, I've got some hemp seeds. I bought some the other day. What you can do is make hemp seed milk. That's how I tend to use it. I tend to soak them overnight, and then I blitz them in some water, strain it, and then you've got hemp seed milk. That's what I tend to use, because I'm going to be making stuff with fresh hemp seeds. So that's one way you can use them.
So we've got another question in the comments, and it says, how do you get tested? Is this through a dietitian?
For tested for what specifically?
Madam,
That's talking about the hormones, or because dietitians are, they advise on diet. They don't necessarily do testing. If they do, I'm not quite sure what testing they would do, but they tend to do diet. So if you wanted to do like the saliva or the urine testing for hormones, you can see if your doctor will do it. If not, then you can do it privately using some testing companies, which I can put you in touch with. And one particular one is called the Dutch test. It's nothing to do with Dutch people, but it's called the Dutch test. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, they put in the comments testing our hormones.
Testing, sorry?
Your hormones.
Testing hormones, yes. So yes. So that would be the Dutch test, because the Dutch test is a urine test, and that's the test that's going to tell you exactly how your body's utilizing hormones, rather than a blood test where you're likely to be told, oh, your levels of estrogen and progesterone, they're normal.
Yes, and going back to the hemp milk, another person said, is that the hemp milk made with shelled or unshelled seeds?
Oh, you can do either or, because the difference with the ones that are out of the shell is that you won't have to soak them. You won't have to pre-soak them. You can just blitz them in water.
And the same person asked, how do you get rid of temptations to eat unhealthily?
How can you get rid of
temptations to eat unhealthily?
That, so right, depends what is going on in the first place, because things like that, when it comes to eating certain foods, it depends what the triggers are. So if you're trying to eat healthy and you say there's temptation in the way, i.e. A chocolate biscuit or something like that, then you've got to see, right, whether that's an addiction, likely to be addiction, or you're just eating it because you're bored. There could be a whole range of factors. Me giving you sort of like some pointers and tips is about all I can do, because I don't quite understand the history of your eating patterns in order to give you a good answer. But in terms of when you're tempted, what I would say is just look at, okay, whether you're actually hungry. That's a good indicator, because a lot of us just eat because we just eat because it's there, because we're bored. Do you see what I mean? That's most of the time where we turn to those foods. We wouldn't turn if we were happy and joyful and stuff like that, or we're not going to eat those foods, or if we do, or sometimes we do. But I find that most people won't turn to a salad when they're feeling upset. So most of the time there's a connection to that type of food somewhere. So you'd need to establish what that connection is, whether it's an addiction, whether it goes back to something that happened in your family where you identify eating a certain food to have affect a certain feeling or response within you.
Thank you. So another question was, how do you get rid of bloating?
That's depends on what's causing the issue, because it could be unbalanced gut bacteria. It could be the fact that you're eating too fast and swallowing food, so you're swallowing food too fast, so you might be taking in a lot of air that's causing the bloating. It could be dysbiosis, i.e. unbalanced gut flora. It could be SIBO, which is another gut condition as well. So yeah, it could be that people aren't well, essentially you need to get tested. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. You may need to get tested or try a range of things. It could be that you have a food intolerance as well. So all these things, when it comes to gut issues, there's so many variables. You would need to start testing, i.e. you might want to start with food intolerance, right? You might want to think, okay, am I intolerant to something? So let me try just cutting out the things that we know that people tend to be have issues with, like wheat, milk, anything dairy based, alcohol, things like that, things that are toxic to the body. So you might want to try an elimination diet first to see if that works.
So another question is, you mentioned the liver. Is it correct in saying that if you drink very cold water or drinks, this can scald your liver, which is not a good thing?
I've heard when you have something really cold, like ice cream or ice cold drinks, I know what the body, it can cause a stress on the body, because what the body then has to do is warm it up to body temperature. Because if all you have to do is just feel your face, and you already know that you're not freezing cold. The only time you're going to be that is when you're no longer breathing, right? So what your body has to do is then bring that substance up to your body temperature, your core temperature, in order to digest it. So in regards to having an impact on the liver, maybe, but I know it goes to the gut first. So it's the gut that's going to get most of the impact, because it has to go through some kind of thermal regulation before it can be processed.
So another question is blackstrap molasses beneficial for fibroids?
I used to take that. The thing about it's one of those things where you have a yes or no answer, because blackstrap molasses, yeah, you've got iron in there, you may have some B vitamin there and other nutrients, but at the same time it is a hit of sugar, especially if you're just eating off the spoon like I was. I personally stopped because I just felt it was bringing on an uncontrollable sugar habit. If you do eat it, you could probably dissolve it in some hot water or something like that. But I think it's one of those things, it's one of those foods that you would have to test. And remember, of course, it's in a jar, so it's going to be processed. Ideally, you want to be looking, again, it goes back to whole foods.
Okay, so another question is, how has COVID affected your menstrual cycle?
Mine, it hasn't, because I've dealt with my menstrual cycle. I've had issues with it long before COVID came along, so it hasn't affected it. I've been affected by COVID, but I've had it, but it hasn't affected my cycle, not at all.
So another person said that they missed the first part of the session, and will the recording be available to everyone?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. Everybody's going to be able to get hold of that once you send the link to me, and I'll send it out.
And another person said, can lupus be a cause of hormone imbalance?
I haven't really looked into lupus, to be honest. But to be honest, I don't know, because it's not a subject I've looked into. My speciality is fibroids and heavy bleeding. So those are the two main areas that I've looked into. But when it comes to any kind of disorder, there's always, your endocrine system is always the place to look. It's always the gut. The things I've spoken about already, the gut, the liver, there's always an underlying imbalance somewhere which you need to check out. And things like lupus just needs, like any other disease, just needs a little bit of investigating to find out the root cause, because there's always a root cause for these things.
So another one which you might touch base on tomorrow is that someone asked, I have terrible period cramps recently. What might be the cause?
Yeah, I'll be going into that a lot more tomorrow.
So
if you join us tomorrow, you'll learn about, we can discuss that, and you can ask that question if it will be covered.
And the same person asked, does veganism affect menstruation?
Does veganism? Is it veganism? No, not really. A plant-based diet has been proved beneficial for a lot of conditions, but you just need to know how to do it properly, and not so you don't end up deficient. But I've seen people who eat a plant-based diet, as I call it, not necessarily, because vegan is more a lifestyle, whereas eating plant-based is just focused on the food. So if you're eating more of a plant-based diet, I've seen people who do that, as well as people who eat a rubbish diet and they still have terrible periods. Again, it's going back to what the underlying root cause. So you can change a diet, which is always a good thing, to become more plant-based. But if you haven't dealt with the root cause, then the diet may not make much of a difference, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So another question relating to periods, which you might touch base on tomorrow as well, is that someone said that her daughter has severe vomiting on the first day of her period each month. What can help with this?
Severe? I didn't hear that. So can you say that again? Because you're very quiet, so I have to.
So they said, my daughter has severe vomiting on her first day of her periods every month. What can help this?
Okay. Right. Again, that when it comes to vomiting, so excuse me. Yeah, we'll need to look into that. But that one thing she can do is probably have something like ginger to help calm down the nausea. Because when it comes to certain problems like that, I would have to investigate deeper to see what's going on, you see. But because I would need to have an idea of, right, okay, is it just the hormones, or is there something else going on? Because this could be one of those severe cases of PMS, you see, that she's experiencing. So I'd need to know if she's on any other medication, what she's eating, in order to give, see if there's something I could suggest that will actually help her. But I would suggest taking something like a ginger, like a ginger tea, to see if that helps with keep the sickness away, because vomiting's quite severe. So that tells me something there's not quite right.
So someone says, I cut out red meat for the last 2 years, but I have low iron now. What food can we take for iron instead of
Well, I mentioned some superfoods. If you cut down meat for hormonal balances, what you could do is just concentrate on remember I said quality sources of meat, because to be honest, plant-based isn't for everybody, depending on your constitution. Plant-based isn't necessarily suitable for anybody, because for everybody, shall I say. So if you've cut out meat and your iron stores are low, was it just really for the meat? Did you get your iron stores measured before you cut out meat, or you cut out meat and then got your iron your iron levels measured and was it correlated to the reduction in meat? That's what I would need to know.
Hi Valerie, sorry, it's Lisa. You're all right, how you
Hello,
doing?
Lisa.
You're all right.
All right, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, the reason why I cut out the red meat was because obviously the fibroids. Remember I spoke to you during lockdown and stuff, so taking some of your advice, obviously I'm not going to go further into it, but yeah, so being diagnosed with fibroids of the uterus, I decided to cut out the red meat, eat more fish and veg and chicken. I can do without curry goat and that, but I can't do without jerk chicken. So yeah, so that's what I decided to do. So I'm thinking, because recently it's been said that red meat carries iron, so it gives you your iron supplement. And I'm thinking, I didn't really have, before that, I didn't have low iron deficiency. So it was after. So
yeah. Oh, okay.
Rather than taking the tablets, what they say to take at the doctors, I'm trying to find a different supplement rather than taking those, because they make you feel a little bit more bunged up. Like taking those ferrosis, what they call ferrosis fermentate iron tablets.
As I was saying during the presentation, Lisa, you can, if you wanted to go back to red meat, you can focus on good quality red meat, just eat less of it, and then just to see, because what you could do is just eat some red meat. I wouldn't normally advocate eating red meat, but if you've noticed that stopping it has decreased your iron stores, then it may be worth going back to it if you want to. Other than that, if you don't want to do that, there are plant sources out there, like the ones I've just mentioned, like the spirulina, chlorella, the wheatgrasses, all the green powders, that they're high in iron as well. The thing is also, when it comes to utilizing it from plant sources, you've got to make sure that you've got a good gut, strong gut function, so you can actually utilize the minerals from plant sources. So it's a case of, if you wanted to go back to meat because you don't mind it, then you can do that. But if you want to focus on quality, because otherwise there's just no point, because you're just adding to the hormone crisis, as I call it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Yeah, I will. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So another question is, some say maca powder can be bad for female hormones. What is the truth?
Yeah, there's a lot of things about that, about a lot of foods. You'll hear it about flax seeds as well. Those foods aren't bad, but if you see earlier, I said in the presentation that maca is a really good hormone balancing foods, and it's also good when it comes to energy, because it's got a lot of nutrients in it. But you've got to be careful when it comes to hormonal imbalances. So you can leave it out until you correct your hormonal imbalances. It's a bit like flax seeds. There's nothing wrong with flax seeds, but if you've got a condition, especially endo, you don't want to be eating that, because it can send your condition spiraling downwards and make it worse. So this is why when it comes to certain foods like maca or flax seeds, until you've got your condition rectified or you're managing it a lot better, because you don't want to manage it, you want to actually heal. So you've got your gut fixed so you can process food better. Your liver is, you know, cleansed and cleared, so it processes hormones, it breaks down hormones a lot better. Your gut is clearing hormones a lot better. You're excreting what you need to excrete in order to make sure that you have, you know, healthy periods, and that you start healing your womb issues. So you may want to steer clear of maca, because for me, maca is a good food from the research I've done personally. If you're reading that it's a bad food, it's probably from a medical website.
So another question is tips for polycystic ovaries.
Mm-hmm. What's for the polycystic ovaries? I didn't hear the first part.
Any tips?
What food tips?
I think they're just thinking generally.
When it comes to PCOS, again, you need to look at the root cause. So it depends what you're already doing. I always start with diet. Start cleaning up your diet.
Hi, so yes, it was for my daughter, her man, yesterday. So when I was inquiring about the Oestrogen Dominance, then a doctor ran some tests and then basically discovered that she has PCOS as well. But the only advice was just put her on the pill, and that was it, basically.
Put her on the pill.
Yeah, and that was the only advice from the GPs. So I said no.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
surprise, surprise. The thing is with PCOS, she wasn't putting on any hormonal pills when she was. How old is she?
She's 16, but has had really bad periods, I'd say, for the last 2 years or so.
Right. Has she had any hormonal injections or anything like that since, you know?
No.
Because what's her diet like?
None at all.
Yeah, because I need. Because.
I mean, I have tried to cut back on the meat, but she still does eat meat. I mean, I do try and buy organic where possible, but she could eat more fruits and vegetables, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, when it comes to PCOS, that's probably one of the difficult gynecological issues to rectify, because you've got cysts all over your ovaries. But it's not impossible. Again, you really do need to hammer, hit home. I mean, she's young, so getting her to do the right thing in terms of eating well, that's where it's at. Eating well is the cornerstone of healing. That will probably, plenty of hydration as well. That's a starting point. If you can get her to do that, then you can possibly get her on to doing other stuff. But if you can get her drinking smoothies with some, hide some vegetables in it, that would be a good thing. But diet, definitely. Diet and hydration, clean water, clean food.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So another question is, I have uterine fibroids, no symptoms, and subclinical
hypothyroidism.
Yeah. Are there any foods to avoid?
Hypothyroidism, yeah, when it comes to hypothyroidism, what I was mentioning about the cruciferous vegetables, you don't want to eat those raw. You always want to have something like that cooked. Also, there's nutrients in foods like seaweed, for example, iodine. You want to up your iodine. And again, you know, what's your liver doing? What's your gut doing? If you're not pooping regularly, then that may be a sign that you're not getting rid of excess estrogen properly. If you've got any kind of digestive issues, it may be that you're not digesting sufficiently. The reason we've got uterine fibroids, that many women have uterine fibroids, is simply because our liver's messed up and our guts are messed up, and there's, you know, when it comes to making hormones, we're not exposed to the things we're supposed to be exposed to. So when it comes to hypothyroidism, any kind of disease, the fix is the same. So what I've mentioned here tonight is pretty much a fix for every disease or dis-ease that you could possibly think of. It's just that we are so far removed from how we should be living and eating naturally. So it's not surprised that we've got all these issues, especially when you've got all these hormone disrupting chemicals in the very products we're using. Another thing I mentioned, wasn't it? Just making sure you start doing probably a check of what you've got in the home, the makeup you use, for example, the cleaning products, the sanitary towels you're using. Are they from Superdrug or are they organic? These are the type of things you need to start looking at in order to start healing the problem as well. But so yeah, it's a full body reset, which is why the program I'm running next month is called the 21-day spring reset, because spring is a time to reset, to cleanse, detox. So that's what you need to do. You need to have a life, you know, overhaul when it comes to fibroids, hypothyroidism, any kind of disease. Sorry, that's probably an overlong answer, but I hope I've answered your question.
So another question is, the book Eat to Live says not to eat nuts. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I think until you've worked, because people have got different ideas about nuts, so it depends what it says about nuts, because I haven't read that book. No, I haven't. So yes, nuts, unless the best way to eat them is soaked. I mean, because one thing I've worked on is my digestion. So I'm much better at processing nuts, whereas years ago I never used to be. And also another reason to avoid nuts is if you've got a cold, damp constitution, which means you've got this ability when you eat certain foods to create a lot of mucus. That's why that's why you might want to avoid nuts, because I avoided nuts for years. I only just recently started eating them again, and only in very small quantities. But yeah, one of the best ways to eat them is to soak them, because you're deactivating any enzyme inhibitors as well. But if you want to give it a go, because if you know that nuts are affecting you, then don't eat them, because they can cause mucus in people who have damp internal dampness.
So another person said, from my experience, consultants are too ready to do a hysterectomy rather than treat the root cause of fibroids. What do you think of this?
Yeah, Well said. That's so true. And I've noticed recently that there is a vast increase in recommending hysterectomy as a first line of treatment more recently. And that seems very odd to me, whereas hysterectomy once upon a time was the very last resort. Now they're whipping out people's wombs like they're nothing. And the womb is sacred. It is the centerpiece of a woman. But sorry, I'm getting off my high horse here. But when it comes to that, yes, they're definitely recommending it. So when it comes, going back to that survey I went on about earlier, you know, the Women's Health Survey about the NHS, what you need to do right at the moment, whether things will improve from the outcomes on that survey is yet to be seen, but we shall see. We can keep our fingers crossed. But in the meantime, you've got to make it very clear, very, very clear, and this is where women need to step up and put their big girly pants on, is to make it clear that you do not want a hysterectomy, all right, no matter how bad the suffering. If you're prepared to put up with a little bit of suffering while you work on healing, you make it very clear that if you're going to have any kinds of treatments, you do not want, under any circumstance, a hysterectomy. And
Sorry,
you have
Valerie,
to make that clear.
It
Yes.
was I that posted that in the chat. My name's Nadine.
Hello, Livine.
Hello. My consultant kind of was really pushing for it, very insistent. And I've just put it on paper that under no circumstances will I agree to a hysterectomy. Not under any circumstances. And it was kind of a case, well,
Good.
Do you want a better quality of life, or do you want to, you know, do you want to suffer? But I kind of made it clear that there would not be any circumstances in which I would agree to that being removed.
Good. Good. Yeah, good. And that's the thing. I mean, if there are some consultants, you can always ask for a referral to somebody else. Are you actually going through for the surgery?
I did. I'm on a waiting list for a myomectomy, but this waiting list is like 3 years long.
Oh, geez.
The reason I went to the other hospital, who were insistent about giving me a hysterectomy, was because I wanted a second opinion. And I wanted to explore non-operative solutions. So that's why I went to the second hospital. The second hospital were insistent upon me having a hysterectomy. They basically said that they don't believe a myomectomy would be beneficial to me. I have, as you said in your presentation, an overproduction of estrogen. And they don't feel that any surgery of any type, apart from a hysterectomy, will cure that problem. So even if they did a myomectomy, there would be a recurrence of fibroids because of the overproduction of estrogen.
Yeah, which is not being dealt with.
That's right.
The thing is, you'll still produce a load of estrogen regardless.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? It's ridiculous that they say that. So what is the plan? What do you want to do now?
Well, the plan is, this is why I'm here today, because I want to, I'm still on the waiting list for the myomectomy, but in the interim, I want to, while I'm waiting, to explore if there's any natural solutions to me actually getting rid of the fibroid. So yeah. I don't actually need to get to that stage where I actually need the myomectomy anyway. Yeah,
absolutely. Within, I always say, there's when it comes to surgery, especially something like a myomectomy, as much as I think surgery is invasive, a myomectomy, for example, because that's what I had, it kind of like releases you, it gets rid of the immediate problem, and then you can start working on a solution to make sure that they don't, a preventative program to ensure that they don't grow back. So that's the kind of thing. But obviously, if you're going to be waiting 3 years, depending on their size, you might, if you're still looking at surgery, you can either do be referred to a private hospital, or you can self-refer, or you can look at something like the Sonata treatment. Have you heard of that? And
yes,
I don't know.
I have heard of that actually. That's a recent development in fibroids. I attended it's by a company called Caribbean and African. They do some presentation about fibroids, and they mentioned the Sonata treatment that has been piloted up north of the country. I don't know if it's in London as of yet, which is where I'm based.
Yes. I think there's not many people who are doing it, but I know this is for everybody, that you can actually be referred to any hospital in the UK.
Okay.
So if you wanted, you could go to your doctor and say, right, is anybody, where are they doing the treatment?
Yeah.
And then you can, if it's up, I don't know, say it was Liverpool, for instance, you could do an overnighter just to get an assessment to see whether you're actually eligible, because I know they go up to a certain fibroid size.
Yeah.
I believe it's about 8 centimeters. So anything more than that, they may not be able to help you. So you can always get an assessment on that to see whether you can actually have that treatment.
I think one of the issues that
That's what I would
with the consultant is that some of my fibroids have actually lost their blood supply. So that's why they were saying that the non-operative options weren't a choice for me, because that is effectively what the non-operative solutions does, is to take away the blood supply from the fibroids.
Yeah, there are other you know, surgeries and procedures. I mean, in the meantime, because I'm going to be totally honest here, getting rid of fibroids naturally is going to take a while. I need to say this, there is no quick fix, and I'm just putting it out there because I see all too often women taking this supplement, that herb, doing this, doing that, and they're not getting results. And there's a reason they're not getting results, and I've already mentioned that tonight. So when it comes to fibroids, I always say a good balance is to have to get them out with the surgery, then do the major work to ensure they don't grow back.
Okay, thank you for taking. I'm sorry to have taken up too much time. So thank you.
No, that's fine. No, that's what I would just say. When it comes to that, I would say that's a good medium. But if you want to do something in the meantime, there's always something you can do to prevent them continuing to grow.
Yeah.
But the body will break them down. But if they're hard, or they're degenerating, eventually they'll come out anyway. You just don't know how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
But if the ones I had were they were like rock solid. So the body, like I said, can break them down, but it's going to take a long while, especially if you've got loads.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You know, you can always get in contact with me. I'll give my contact details tomorrow. So, you know, make a note of those if you're on tomorrow.
Thank you, Valerie. Okay. Thank you.
So I'm going to read out one last question. So
yeah, sure.
The last question is, how might you use to remove parasites in your body consumed in food, etc., which can affect your cycle?
Yeah, parasites. Yeah, that's one of my favorite subjects as well. Yeah, when it comes to parasite, you'd have to do a parasite purge. That's the only way to get rid of them. And also, when it comes to parasites, they work in conjunction with heavy metals. Both of them come together when it comes to parasites. So you've got to do the work on both. So you may want to look at, like I said, a parasite purge and a heavy metal cleanse as well.
So I would like to thank everyone for coming to today's session. It's been lovely that all of you have been really engaging and really interested in this. And as Valerie said, she'll give out her details tomorrow. So then, if anything, after then, you can always send her a message with any questions that you may have. And I just want to thank Valerie for doing this session. It's been very informative. Like, I learned many things that I didn't know before. So I thank you for everything and for doing this session.
You're welcome.
And we're very blessed to have another session tomorrow. So I hope to see all of you there tomorrow at the same time, 7 o'clock. So we will see you then.
All right. Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Valerie.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Valerie, are you still there?
Just left the thing, Andrew.
Well done,
JD.
JD.
Oh, JD, stop recording.